All right, let's unpack this. Today is the day, Friday, January 30, 2026.
Yep.
If you have been refreshing your news feed or doom scrolling social media, you already know the headline. The Department of Justice has officially declared mission accomplished.
Compliance Day, they're calling it.
Right, compliance. And on the surface, if you just look at the raw data, it looks like a massive win for transparency.
Oh, for
We're
sure.
talking about 3.5 million pages of documents hitting the public record.
A mountain of paper.
It sounds like they cracked the safe and emptied everything onto the internet. But looking at the reaction online, and specifically from the people who actually wrote this law, the mood isn't exactly celebratory.
No, far from it. If you look past the sheer volume, because 3.5 million pages is, objectively huge, the narrative forming today is about what isn't there.
Right.
We're seeing words like betrayal, failure, and cover-up trending, and not just from, internet sleuths. This is coming from sitting members of Congress.
And the survivors themselves.
And, most heartbreakingly, from the survivors themselves.
That's the disconnect I want to get to the bottom of in this deep dive. How can the government release millions of pages of evidence and still be accused of hiding the truth?
Well, it's a complicated mix, which is what makes it so dangerous. But to understand the anger, you have to start with the math. It's really a numbers game.
Okay.
The DOJ identified over 6 million pages of documents that were potentially responsive to this act. Today, they released about 3.5 million.
So doing the napkin math, that's nearly half.
Correct. Nearly 50% of the material collected for this transparency project is sitting somewhere, withheld from the public.
That seems bold. How do you justify holding back half the library when the law is literally called the Transparency Act?
Well, their argument, which was laid out in the letter today, is largely administrative. They claim those missing 2.5 to 3 million pages are duplicates.
Okay, duplicates I can understand.
Or they're in foreign languages that couldn't be processed in time,
Yeah.
and this is a big catch-all, they deem them non-responsive.
Non-responsive. That's a heavy term. It basically means we looked at it and we decided on your behalf that you don't need to see it.
Exactly. It means they determined it wasn't relevant. And this is where the trust just breaks down completely.
I see.
You have the Department of Justice, the very same institution that cut that original, highly controversial deal with Epstein years ago, now acting as the filter for the evidence.
So they're essentially grading their own homework.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
And that conflict of interest is fueling this bipartisan revolt we're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was reading about the odd couple leading the charge in Congress.
Right. It's not every day you see Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie sharing a microphone.
It really highlights the severity of this.
Yeah.
You have Ro Khanna, a progressive Democrat, and Thomas Massie, a libertarian Republican.
They usually wouldn't agree on what day it is.
Not at all. But they co-authored this act back in November, and they are united on this one point. They do not trust the DOJ to police itself.
They actually tried to get a special master appointed, right? I saw
Yeah.
that phrase. For those of us who, didn't go to law school, what does that actually mean?
Think of a special master as a referee. When a judge decides that a government agency can't be trusted to sort through evidence fairly, maybe because they're biased or conflicted, the court appoints an independent third party.
An outsider.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That person goes in and reviews the documents instead of the agency.
So Khanna and Massie wanted an outsider to look at those missing pages to make sure non-responsive didn't actually mean too embarrassing to release.
Precisely. On January 8th, they sent a letter to Judge Engelmayer explicitly stating they did not trust Attorney General Pam Bondi or Deputy AG Todd Blanche to comply with the law.
But the judge said no.
He did, but the denial was fascinating. He didn't say, oh, the DOJ is trustworthy. He denied it on jurisdictional grounds, basically saying, I don't have the legal authority to step in right now.
Ah, okay.
But, and this is key, he admitted in his ruling that the lawmakers raised legitimate concerns.
That's a polite judicial way of saying, you're probably right to be worried, but my hands are tied.
It leaves us in this strange limbo where the court acknowledges the concerns, but the release went ahead on the DOJ's terms anyway.
And the result, according to the survivors, is just a disaster. Let's talk about the survivors, because ultimately, this isn't just about politics. There are real people at the center of this nightmare. I saw a statement from a group of 20 survivors released today. They sound furious.
Furious might be an understatement. They're devastated.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to remember, the Epstein Files Transparency Act had a dual mandate. Two very simple jobs.
Okay.
1, protect the victim's privacy. 2, expose the powerful who enabled the abuse. The survivors are arguing the DOJ managed to do the exact opposite.
The inverse of the law.
According to their statement, yeah. This document dump has failed to properly redact victims' names and identifying details in some places.
Oh, that's horrible.
Imagine the trauma of having your privacy violated all over again by the government agency that was supposed to protect you.
While simultaneously,
the rich and powerful men, the politically exposed persons, have their names redacted. The survivors' statement was chilling. They said, "The men who abused us remain hidden and protected."
how does that even happen? Is it malice or just incompetence?
That is the big debate right now. But there's certainly evidence of technical incompetence that borders on negligence. You might recall back in December, during the initial releases, there was a scandal about reversible redactions.
Oh, I remember reading about this. People were just copying and pasting the blacked out text, right?
It was that simple. They put a digital black bar over the text, but the text layer underneath was still there.
Unbelievable.
You could just copy-paste it into a Word doc, and suddenly the hidden names were visible. It was a failure of basic tech 101.
And then you have the other extreme where they just nuked entire files.
Right, the grand jury NY file, it's 119 pages long. It was released today entirely blacked out, just page after page of black ink.
So we have victims' identities leaking out because of bad PDF editing and entire files censored with a heavy hand. It really does feel like the worst of both worlds.
It creates a narrative that the system is broken. If you can't trust the DOJ to use a marker pen correctly, how can you trust them on anything else?
Okay, I want to pivot here. We've established the structural mess, the missing pages, the redaction failures, but 3.5 million pages is still a mountain of information. And despite the black ink, names have come out.
There absolutely are, and some of them significantly change our understanding of how deep these relationships went.
Let's start with Elon Musk. He has always maintained that he barely knew Epstein. What do the new files say?
The new files paint a much friendlier picture. We're looking at email exchanges from 2012 and 2013. In one, Musk emails Epstein and asks what day-night will be the wildest party on your island.
The wildest party. That is specific. That doesn't sound like he's looking for rocket engineering advice.
It certainly implies a desire for a specific kind of entertainment. And Epstein replies, "Any day. Always space for you." Now, we have to be precise here, because accuracy matters. The emails suggest that logistical issues might have prevented these specific trips from happening.
Sure, but the intent is the headline, isn't it? You don't ask a guy for the schedule of his wildest party if you're trying to distance yourself.
Exactly. It contradicts the whole casual acquaintance defense. And that theme, public distance versus private familiarity, keeps coming up. Look at Prince Andrew.
I feel like we can't do an episode on this without mentioning him. But hasn't everything already been said?
You would think so, but this gives us a snapshot from December 2010 that just destroys one of his main defenses.
Okay, remind us.
Remember, in 2010, Epstein was already a convicted sex offender. Everyone knew what he was.
And Andrew's story has always been that he went to New York in 2010 solely to break up with Epstein. The honorable exit.
Right. But the documents show a publicist, Peggy Seeger, organizing a dinner party for Andrew at Epstein's mansion during that trip. And the guest list wasn't a somber legal team. It was Woody Allen, George Stephanopoulos, Katie Couric.
Wait, you don't organize a celebrity dinner party to break up with someone? That's not how human beings behave.
No, you do that to celebrate, to socialize. It looks like business as usual. A high society party hosted by a sex offender, with a British prince as the guest of honor.
It just completely undermines the idea that he was there to cut ties.
It suggests he was there to party. It's incredible how these emails just sit there years later, contradicting the PR statements.
What about the political side? We have names from the UK government, too. Peter Mandelson.
A massive figure in British politics. The files reveal a direct financial connection. Epstein wired thousands of pounds to Mandelson's husband.
For what?
For an osteopathy course and for models.
No models.
The email says models. But the part that really catches the eye is the instruction Mandelson sent to Epstein. He asked him to structure the transfer specifically as a loan.
Why a loan? What's the difference?
It's the gift tax mechanism. If I give you a large sum of money, I have to declare it, maybe pay taxes on it. But if I loan you the money...
It's not income.
Exactly. You don't pay tax on it. And I don't have to declare it as a gift. It implies a desire to minimize the paper trail.
Let's cross the Atlantic, the White House. We have a new administration, but the Epstein shadow seems to touch everyone. Let's talk about the Trumps.
There are two distinct streams of information here. First, Melania Trump. There's an email from 2002 signed Love Melania sent to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Love Melania! That suggests a real friendship.
It does. It was regarding a magazine profile, but it confirms they were in the same social circles. This was, of course, long before the presidency.
But the information regarding Donald Trump is much more complex. It seems a lot messier.
It is. And this brings us back to the DOJ's strategy. Included in this massive dump were raw tips sent to the FBI. Unverified claims. One of them alleges an incident in 1984 involving Donald Trump.
But the DOJ did something unusual with that one, didn't they?
They did. In the release statement, they explicitly labeled that specific allegation as unfounded and false.
Which begs the question, if it's unfounded and false, why release it? Why not just put it in the non-responsive pile with the other 3 million pages?
That is the critical question. Critics are arguing this is a strategy called flooding the zone. By dumping unverified, sensational, or false tips alongside real evidence, you muddy the waters.
It gives people an out. They can point to the junk and say, see, it's all fake. The whole release is a hoax.
Precisely. It potentially discredits the credible accusations by mixing them with debris. If you put a diamond in a pile of broken glass, it's much harder to find the diamond.
But we do have facts, right? We have the flight logs. Those aren't tips.
Correct. The flight logs are documentation. They confirm Trump was a passenger on Epstein's jet at least 8 times between 1993 and 1996. That is a documented fact.
And it's not just the former president, it's his current administration, Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary.
Yes, Lutnick is another one who tried to rewrite history. He claimed publicly that he was revolted by Epstein and had cut ties years prior.
And the emails say?
The emails show he was planning a family visit to Epstein's island in December of 2012.
2012 seems to be a very busy year for people who were supposedly revolted by Epstein.
It really does. A lot of people were condemning him in public, while RSVPing, yes, in private emails.
So we have all these fragments, Musk seeking a party, Andrew at a dinner, Mandelson structuring loans. But what we don't have are the smoking guns regarding the legal system itself.
That's the missing half we talked about.
Right.
What critics like Massey and Khanna were really hunting for weren't just social schedules. They wanted the prosecution memos, the internal DOJ emails, explaining why Epstein was given that sweetheart deal.
Why was he allowed to operate for so long?
Yes, and those documents.
Largely missing or heavily redacted.
We have been given a very detailed map of the lobby who was coming and going, but the door to the basement, where the real decisions were made, is still locked.
This brings us to the mission accomplished letter from Deputy AG Todd Blanche. He says over 500 attorneys worked on this. He admits inconsistencies will likely exist.
Inconsistencies will likely exist. It's a very lawyerly way of saying, we know we made mistakes, but please don't sue us.
It feels like a shrug. We did our best. Here's half the files. We're going home.
And politically, they might get away with it. There was an attempt to hold Attorney General Pam Bondi in contempt of Congress, but it failed on party lines.
But the Oversight Committee isn't buying it.
No. Ranking member Robert Garcia accused the DOJ of a White House cover-up. He's pointing directly at that 50% withholding figure.
It's a fascinating pivot for Donald Trump, too. I remember clearly he called the Epstein Files a hoax.
He did. He called it a hoax, then right before the vote passed, he flipped and supported the release. Now, his own DOJ is being accused of sanitizing those very files.
So where does this leave us? We have 3.5 million pages. We have embarrassment for the elite. But do we have justice?
That is the hard question. We have embarrassment, certainly. We have confirmation of hypocrisy. But I don't think we have justice. Justice requires the full truth, not a curated selection.
It feels like we are looking at an exhibit. The DOJ is the curator. They decided what hangs on the wall and what stays in the storage room.
That's exactly right. And for you, the listener, this matters because it highlights a fundamental flaw in how we handle government transparency. We are asking the institution that failed, the DOJ, to release the evidence of its own failure.
It's institutional self-preservation.
If the DOJ decided that nearly 3 million pages were non-responsive, we are forced to trust their judgment. Same judgment that failed to stop Epstein in the first place.
That is a chilling thought. We are only seeing what they want us to see.
And we have to ask ourselves, is the missing 50% just duplicates? Or is that where the real story is hiding?
Well, the Epstein library is online now. If you're over 18, you can go look for yourself. Maybe there is something in those 3.5 million pages that the 500 attorneys missed.
There usually is.
Yeah.
The internet remains undefeated at finding needles in haystacks.
We'll be watching closely to see what else surfaces. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and we'll catch you on the next one.